Hi. Welcome to the amazing conspiracy realist channel, Live-wire, 623 or 626, 2023. I am your host, Brian Cirillo, the one and only Lex Naturalis, one-man punk band. And, so yeah, I oftentimes I beat myself up, for not doing enough. And, but I realized, I was talking to my friend, other Brian from my band, Death Cult Pharmaceutical, and he was saying, yeah, man, I mean, I hear you say you're not doing enough, for the great work and all that, but, like, what about our band, We're Death Cult Pharmaceutical, we got songs like Insane World, we have songs about rights, like the song Rights, I've gone over that song a million times, so we're not, it's not like every single song is so, natural law centric, but Death Cult is in the name, and so it's like the name, is derived from the way Brian and I were describing the pharmaceutical industry during the COVID fiasco. And so, Death Cult Pharmaceutical, Lex Naturalis, I mean, these are my musical projects, and I'm really proud of them, and I'm really continuing on with them, and working with other people. And like the thing is, everybody that works with me is hearing the name Lex Naturalis, and it's just like, and I'm always reiterating, this means natural law, which means a cosmic moral law of the universe, which means you don't fuck with other people and they don't fuck with you, and we're all good. And I put it in these like more basic street terms for people, and they're like, yeah, well, right on, man, like, of course, like, it's just, and it's so, instead of just kind of going at that angle where it's just like saying, you go out and say, there's an objective difference between right and wrong, and that's definitely true and stuff, but like, you come out and say that to somebody, and and then you say, oh, there's an objective difference between right and wrong, and most people don't understand that. Then the wheels start to go, they kind of do like a back, start back wheeling into like, well, wait a second, I feel like I have to defend some sort of position here. Isn't it that maybe right and wrong are kind of gray area? And then but then when you come in straight with this is natural law and this is what it means, it's like a no-brainer. And so I think it's just like, depending on where you meet people with it, it can have a really different effect. And so, I've been talking now for a long time that, like, that I'm not ashamed to, identify as bisexual and, be a little bit boisterous, about it, and stuff like that, because I feel like there's a lot of things that people don't understand about bisexuality and homosexuality, regardless and outside of the framework of the modern LGBTQ corporate agenda. And so, and I know when it comes to pride picnics and pride rallies and things, the criticism is there for certain aspects of that, and I hear it, I understand it, and, I was a little bit reluctant when I was invited to go to the Lake Luzerne Pride rally, but, the person that invited me was, like, really into, my music and wanted me to be part of it, and she knew that I was bisexual, and so I just felt like it was an opportunity for me to kind of, make my stance and just represent, what the experience of homosexuality means to me, and how it relates to my understanding of cosmic law, and like how, without discounting the fact that there are agendas related to, the epidysgenics agenda, like, there's still that, but it's like, that doesn't mean that, Mark is not saying, like, in his presentation, don't be gay or don't be a certain way, like that, and even with the transgender thing, he even says, like, people obviously under natural law have the right to do whatever they want with their own body, but he's saying, but maybe we should really look into the fact that, he basically was saying it outright, like, let's call it what it is. It's a mental disorder. And I personally think that's a bit of a stretch. I mean, I think that the misunderstanding that people can get from your gender dysphoria is kind of what can make you psychotic, crazy, and act out and stuff. But like a dysphoria of any kind is, I don't know, like maybe mental disorder, is kind of a, I don't know if that's a 100% accurate phrase for like when you have body dysmorphia of any kind. But, I think, well, certainly when it comes to bulimia and stuff, it is kind of a mental disorder. So I get it. I get where they're coming from with it. I just don't think that, like, there's inherently anything, like, you could still be a healthy, balanced person and be trans, and you could be a healthy, balanced person and be bisexual and be homosexual, like, and stuff like that. So, and it's not like a popular opinion within the alternative research community right now, and I get where you guys are coming from with it, but this is just my own, I will give you my take on it as someone that partakes in homosexual activity, and so yeah, I mean, today I'm just gonna go over like a very interesting experience I had at the first ever Lake Luzerne Pride Picnic, and I first want to address that, like, I personally thought that I was reluctant, like I said, because I knew it said on the flyer or on the Facebook page that they were going to have drag queen story hour. And obviously, that took me, really made me question, should I do this? And I think a lot of you out there are going to say, like, as soon as I heard that was going on, I should have definitely not done it. But here's what, I went there again to come in with this jersey, 02, for two genders, right? And because it's like being bisexual is a contradiction, and I know it pisses off the hardcore LGBTQ people, who don't understand, what masculine and femininity really is. And so, I know that it's a contradiction. They can't address me and say, hey, you, what are you talking about, too? There's no two genders, there's like 47,000. They didn't come to me with that, and I think it's something that they feel like they can't, it's such a contradiction, and it breaks down their whole thing that it's like, just stay as far away from that subject as they possibly can. And I know that when I say words like men and women, I can see that the refrain is changed, but they don't address me on it. The LGBTQers that I know. They don't address me. When I say man and women, when I imply the existence of the both genders, they don't, I can tell it ticks them off, and they kind of look away and like try to change the subject, but they don't ever get out with it. And that's a good sign, and to me it's like, again, like transgender woman is even Jay Parker was saying, like, I can understand that there's such thing as a transgender woman, but like to say that it's the same as a biological woman is it's just not, like, and these people are always harping about science and stuff, but then it's like when it comes to blatant science, it's right in their face, they ignore it. And of course they do that with quantum physics and everything. I mean, so, but yeah, like I said, I was reluctant to do it because of the drag queen story hour. I knew that I was going to be going on after that, like, and so I probably wasn't going to be there for that. But, when I got there, it was not done in bad taste. And it was not like, okay, the person that was supposed to be the drag queen wasn't really a drag queen at all. It was a Lady Gaga impersonator. It was a male Lady Gaga impersonator, but they weren't. And I know, Lady Gaga, right, Illuminati and stuff like that, and whatever. But in this case, they, I would say that the adults in the room were well covered, and it was not like, and it was literally just, reading stories to kids, I guess, and I guess the subject matter of the books, I don't, I can't really say that I know, I wasn't there for it, but I know that the people that were there was definitely not like, and I saw the footage of it, and it was They were not doing strip teases. They were not doing sex acts or anything. I mean, we may disagree with the content of the books that were read. I mean, depending on how they, because obviously, as I've been going on an infinitum on the show, that, the whole paradigm within the LGBTQ right now is really skewed because it's been infiltrated. So I'm sure the message was, skewed in whatever children's book, but I would hope that whatever books they read, it was more geared towards, just don't be such a dick to people just for being different, especially if they're choosing to do what they want with their own body and they're not causing harm to anyone else. There's no reason to be, badgering. It's like, I understand bullying. Kids gotta learn to stand up for themselves. At the same time, it doesn't hurt to just say, hey man, just don't be a dick. Some people, they got some problems. Whatever. Even if you want to say that gender dysphoria is a mental disorder, just like any other thing. You have your kids there and you say to the kid, like, okay, yeah, I know, this guy's got a dress on or whatever. He's got issues. You even say, if you don't agree, with it, and you think, the kid's parents fucked him up or something, that's fine. It's just, but you could say to the kid, look, Jeffrey, he's got a little problem. He's different. He's got issues that you don't have, and so that's why he's wearing a dress. You can kind of frame it in that way. And so it's like, I'm not against like anti-bullying things, and I get the argument against that, like, right, the kid's got to learn to stand up for himself. I get it. But at the same time, it's like, you could have, I think for me, it's like I said, pride is the pride thing, it can be, you can do it in a positive way and just say, like, it's a cultural thing. It's just like, if you want to learn about people that are, cuisine in different countries or whatever, it's just like, or just different ways of life, from different people, different strokes for different folks, and so you can just say, oh yeah, some people, because when I was a kid, they were sort of, I remember I watched, like, there was an educational video and it just said, like, yeah, some people, when they grow up with two moms because, their parents are, their parents are lesbians and stuff like that. Or it's two fathers because the two guys are gay or whatever. And so it's like, I think, and I think there's a big disconnect with, like, the truth community and that whole thing. It's just like, again, people are free to do as they wish, and it's like, it's not like if, you see, in gay relationships, someone takes the masculine role, someone takes the feminine role, and so when you have a situation where someone has two fathers, well, one is going to be not a mother, but like a mother, and the other one is going to be more like, the traditional father, and technically they call them both father, but, it's like, they can still learn about masculine and feminine and balance it if their parents are conscious. And, so it's like, is there anyone that's gay that's conscious, Well, I don't see a whole lot of people that are totally conscious that are in the gay community. I don't think that it's gayness that causes them to be unconscious. I think that it's just, whatever group or dynamic or orientation that you have, there's going to be forces that are geared towards mind controlling you. And so, like I said, I went to the picnic, and I went with the message of natural law, and I didn't use the term pansexual or anything like that. I said I'm bisexual. I recognized I was attracted to both men and women, and I said, words to the effect of, like, I think for, today is a day for, and I explained what Lex Naturalis meant, and this is an audience of, transgender people, bisexual people, and it was so, and the thing is, it was one of the best shows I've ever played because it was just so well received. Like, even the message that I was sending, I was explaining to them what natural law means, and, they were just really, applause, and, they were really impressed, and they were like, and so I said to them, it's like, we wouldn't want anyone, if we wouldn't want anyone to commit violence against us. I basically said, I said it much better when I was on stage, but I'm trying to think of how what I said exactly was more like, let's make this a day, where we kind of celebrate, non-aggressing anyone that's different from us. Or I'm trying to think of how I said it. I said it in a good way. I wasn't stuttering. I wasn't doing any of the stuff I'm doing now. Just give me a second. But yeah, I said, so it's like Lex Naturalis, I explained to him what it meant, and then I said, and then it's a cosmic law that governs the behavior of, people in the universe, and that, it's about not committing violence against people that are different from us. So it kind of has a double meaning. I'm sure that a lot of the folks in the audience were saying, oh yeah, this applies to me, as a transgender, no one should commit violence against me, right? Of course. But what I was also saying is that, because there was one guy who was an Antifa guy in the crowd, and he wasn't being a dick. He was sitting down. He had the gear on, like not the mask. He just had a T-shirt, and I could tell he was an Antifa guy, and that was a little intimidating. But I just gave the message. I said, that it's like we don't want to commit violence against people that are different from us. And we wouldn't want that done to ourselves, and that's what natural law is all about. And I got like a standing ovation for saying that, and of course they probably all just thought like, oh, they're talking about gay bashing. He's talking about people committing violence against us. But I had a double meaning. Like, I was saying that because you guys also, you don't want to commit violence in form of taking away people's free speech, and in the case of Antifa, attacking, throwing bricks at anybody that you think is a Nazi, and just throwing bricks at people in general, so I just said, like, this is about non-violence. This is about, let's make it about non-violence. Let's make it about true non-violence, and, the sense that, like at the bare bones level of this, it's not about us celebrating I got fucked in the ass. It's about celebrating just the fact that we're free to be who we are and to express our sexuality how we wish, as long as it doesn't cause harm to someone else and impede someone else's sexual freedom. And so, yeah, and then I got, people had taken videos of me playing, and somebody even texted me and said, like, you're the real deal, man, like, for real, and we love that, and so, and like, there wasn't any songs that I had that were saying I'm a victim. I had songs about spiritual empowerment, like, the ancestral mind, and saying, listen to the inner voice, the inner goddess and the inner god, they're speaking to you, and so I really felt like, I had made a connection with these people, like, at least, maybe at the very least I reached their subconscious, or something like that. It's like, I know that, and so this is what I understand what the work is to do. Is like, a lot of you guys are sitting there, criticizing and stuff when it comes to the gay community, and I understand it, like I said, but I'm going in there. A lot of you guys out there, I don't think that you'd ever be caught dead at any sort of pride thing, and I don't blame you for that, because there's definitely a time in my life where and there's definitely a lot of pride rallies where I'm sure I would, it wouldn't totally be, I would have issues with things, right, but at this one, this is a small town, and the issues that we're dealing with in this community are more like the classical liberal issues that we have with the conservative, milieu, in the sense that, there's conservatards and there's libtards, and so in the cities, you get a lot of libtards. Here, there's still libtards, but they're reacting to the conservatards who really also do exist here, who are not intelligent like Jordan Peterson or an Ayn Rand or someone like that. They're not. They're just ignorant fucks who they really do hate just things that are different from them. Like, if you're not like a white Christian straight male, they really do not like you. And then now that there's all this, this oversaturation of focus on that, and like lumping everybody into the category of these few, like, a lot of these people that, the way the left portrays it is that, like, everybody thinks, like, the few hillbillies that are around little rural towns. Like, if you go anywhere, in the United States, like, far enough away from a big city center, in Philadelphia, New York, you're gonna find Rust Belt cities, like small towns, but like not so much small like rural communities. And then there's like there's the small town or city or village, and then you kind of move toward a more suburban area, and then then you're out in the sticks, and then in the sticks it's just like, all I know is my name is Jeffrey. I work at Ace Hardware, and it's like I just know how to do my job, and I just, I've been with the same girl for like my whole life, and we argue and we fight like cats and dogs, and that's just how it goes. And we smoke cigarettes and chew tobacco, and I don't know anything about this, so they don't want to know anything about anything. Even, like I said, when I've tried to even sympathize with these people, like, during the Trump time, when I thought Trump was going to, oh, maybe this guy will turn things around, I kind of like the rhetoric, like, I kind of understand where he's coming from, like, we are losing our freedom, it does suck, and then it's just like, even the conservatards, like, just for having any opinion at all, is just like, oh, he should know better than to speak up. He ought to be humble and just keep his mouth shut and just let God handle it. And so it's, yeah. And so in the small community we have, there isn't going to be like a big drag, like, let's have a striptease in front of the kid. I mean, they wouldn't even think of doing something like that. And then, like, if you bring up, like, oh, because they don't watch Alex Jones, or they don't watch anything like that shows them footage of these extreme drag queen strip shows at a preschool. Like, they don't see that, so they just think, oh, you're just making that. Doesn't happen. I've never heard or seen anything like that. What are you talking about? They just think you're insane, because it's just like, at their things, it's just like, yeah, I mean, there are definitely men dressed as women, but like, it's like they're not revealing anything more than a woman would reveal when she's wearing a dress or high heels, or people wearing fishnets and stuff. But it's like nobody's revealing. Like, you can't see. It's like, I think that, like, part of my issue too is that, like, as adults, do we have to censor everything that we do just because there are kids around? Like, I mean, I'm not saying, let's say it to extremes, but it's just like, do women, like when you're walking in Disney, like, it's like when I was a kid walking in Disney World, I was in 6th grade, I saw all different kinds of people. You take your kids to, it goes back to the thing of not sheltering your kids. And so it's like, you see, when you're with your kids, you're going to see all different types of people. Even when I was a kid, I'd see punk rockers and say, oh, what is that guy into? It's like, oh, don't. Oh, son of a bitch, I wish that guy wasn't having the mohawk and the spikes, because then now my son wants to know what it's all about, and, we can't have that. And it's just like, no. Like, let your kids learn about, what the different, like, what life is about, like, the world that they live in. They make up their own minds. I mean, we don't have to take it to extremes. I mean, what happened was, like, there was people there performing, and they weren't stripping, they were singing. A lot of times it was singing, dancing, skits, just like, operatic, sort of, I don't know, everyone had like a different thing. Some people did stand-up comedy, like, some people just had talents. It was like a talent show. And there wasn't even that many kids there to begin with. I mean, there was a couple. I don't know what happened there. I don't know. If we're going to be able to pick up where I left off. Oh, I got a little smuts on me. God damn it. Everything goes wrong when you try to get stuff done sometimes. I don't know if you're watching now, Rod. But how's it going, man? Alright, so before it said emergency, that my phone was too hot and I needed to cool down, which is really frustrating because I just got this new light so I could get some better lighting when I'm doing this, and then of course it makes it so my phone's too hot. So, I guess there's gonna be a big gap in this broadcast. It's really frustrating, but all right. So I was saying, I went to the Pride Picnic in Lake Luzerne. I felt overall it was done in pretty good taste. Like I said, there was the story hour. It was not a drag queen didn't read the story hour. It was more somebody that was kind of just, it was a transgender person. Was just was reading the story. And I didn't hear the story. And I know that the kids weren't even paying attention for most of it. And it's not like, and then the rest of it was just, it's like a talent show. And there wasn't really there was nothing with regard to, there was no one being sexual on stage. Well, I mean, I'm just hot, so. But I was singing, and I was, doing my music, and I feel like I'm on trial here. Like, there was no, it was not a strip show. It was not like a sexual thing. It was just, what this is just saying that people live different lifestyles. And that, being gay is just not about sex. It's like you could, it's just explaining to kids that people have just different ways of expressing themselves in their personality. And, that you just, on the most basic Oh, thanks, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But yeah, on the most basic level, at the Pride rally, it was just like, I'm losing my train of thought just because I'm really not happy with the way this broadcast turned out because of the blackout thing that happened. Alright, so what was I saying? It's just, I was able to bring the message of natural law to the folks at the Lake Luzerne Pride rally. And it was a great feeling. And I explained to them what the meaning of Lex Naturalis was, and that we shouldn't, this is a day for nonviolence, and we shouldn't act, commit acts of aggression and violence on people just because, they're for committing the crime of being different. And so it's just it's about accepting people to do what they wish with their own body and express their appearance however they wish. And so in a way it's kind of I kind of look at it as more like a pro-individualism thing. And I think that for our small community, I was able to kind of steer the event in that direction, just by my words and just by I'm showing up there with an O2 for both genders, masculine and femininity. I don't know better, this is what I understand, right? And so I feel like I made a positive connection with those folks, and I'm proud to say that I've gone where no conspiracy realist has gone, in the depths of the Pride movement, and I went in there, talked about natural law. Nobody, threw bricks at me. Nobody called me a fascist. Nobody called me a transphobe. Nobody said anything like that. I got a standing ovation for saying that there's an objective difference between right and wrong, for saying that, we don't, and then immediately following it up with, and that we want to celebrate, I didn't say celebrate, but I said, this is about not committing violence against those who are different from us, who haven't wronged us in any way. And I was at the time I was on fire. I was on stage, and I was in front of a lot of people, and I was I could see them unlike now, and I was able to make a more personal connection with them, and the words just came more beautifully. I wish someone had gotten my speech on tape, but nonetheless, I'm putting the idea into in front of people at least, and they could do what they wish, and people are gonna have all kinds of projections onto me. I know that, I'm sure a lot of people were not really fully listening to what I was saying and just saw that I was giving a speech and just just assumed it was the normal rhetoric rhetoric they're used to hearing, but you know, I gave a little bit of a different take on it, and still made it like work with the event. And so yeah, I was a little bit reluctant, like I said, but I just think that overall it was really wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It was just it wasn't it was a nice thing, you know, and it was fun to be able to have that opportunity. And I think that, you know, I think what I was saying before we blacked out is that, like, you know, part of what the great work is to do is to, you know, go to those places, you know, instead of just criticizing the LGBT and stuff like that, you know, go into, you know, try to meet some people and you know, try to connect with them and bring them forth these ideas, you know. Like I said, I'm in a band with somebody who is transgender, and it's not always easy. I mean, you know, it's like sometimes we do have we come upon the disagreements as we go, but we share a lot of laughs together, and we do there is a lot of overlap with you know, our understanding of things. And you know, I'm just trying to get her to understand that, like, you know, that it's like the communism thing and the anarchism thing are two contradictory, you know, ways of thinking, and like that, you know, that communism has only ever led to dictatorial, fascist-like regimes, and it's like, so, you know, we're just kind of playing, you know, it becomes like a game of semantics, you know, half the time. It's like, you know, fascism versus communism. It's like, you know, again, it's like the two sides of the same coin. And it's so hard to, it's so ingrained and I understand that so well, and I can see that so well, but it's still, it's not, you know, people are still, and even some really smart people who, like, you know, it's like, it's amazing that they can be so intelligent in so many other areas, and then they just have a blind spot for this fucking left-right, you know, divide and conquer shit, man. And so, yeah. So overall, the Lake Luzerne Pride Picnic, my performance, I'm proud of it. I'm glad I did it, and I'm not ashamed to say that I did it. And I'm not ashamed to say that I was able to bring the message of natural law to those people for at least that moment in that day. And so I guess that, you know, there wasn't really too much else that I wanted to go into, because I'm going to kind of, you know, when I have things to say and opinions, I'm going to come on here and say it. But really got to get back into the work and like, you know, the kind of presentations I did at the beginning of Amazing Conspiracy Realist channel. And so when I first started the channel, I was using a really outdated computer, and I had updated it and did my best to keep it running, and it's finally just shit the bed and it's done. So if you want to see presentations at the quality of my earlier presentations, then, you know, I'm going to start a GoFundMe page to get a new computer and, you know, recover my old files and get that going again, because I have a lot on my old computer, you know, even unfinished books that I've started writing, you know. So you know, I am gonna put out a campaign for GoFundMe. It's a technology fund for Amazing Conspiracy Realist channel, and so yeah, there'll be more about that coming, and so yeah, and then in the future, you know, I'm not gonna wait around for that technology fund to come in. There are other ways to make to make slides and stuff, and you know, I'm gonna give it a shot just using the limited, you know, just the phone. But I do have Adobe Express app, and I'm gonna see what that can do for me to make some basic slides for what I'm gonna be doing coming up on the channel. So shifting gears, I've definitely gone into my personal life a lot, and I've gone into, this entire year I basically used this live platform to work a lot of shit out. And even, the last broadcasts were pretty brutal, pretty rough. I was definitely not in high spirits, dealing with, just the conflict of, for whatever reason it may be, it just seems that, like, the way I'm looked upon by men is I'm looked upon them as more attractive, and women just not the same. So it's like a guy could think I'm a total hottie, and a woman could see the same picture of me or whatever, and they just don't give a shit or whatever it is. And so a lot of sexual hang-ups and stuff I've been trying to work out. A lot of issues that I have, with regards to, the way society's understanding of masculine and feminine is in general. And just a lot of misunderstandings from people who are under mind control and people who are whatever, on both sides, on all sides. And so we're going to shift gears and dive a little bit more into history and go back into, the understanding of, like, where did this, conspiracy originate? And so we're going to talk about genetic manipulation. And so what I'm going to be doing is a book review of The Irish Origins of Civilization, and then kind of follow that up with a book review of Genetic Manipulation and Experimentation. Both of these books are by Michael Tsarion. And so we're going to give people, like, a general outline. So I've already gone. I was going to do a DeOcculted, Debunking Darwin Part 2, kind of go into the issues with regards to social Darwinism, but I feel like I've done that. Like, if you want to know basically about that, then my entire live series this whole year, has touched upon the issues that have resulted from evolutionary theory being the dominant theory. And it's not the dominant theory because it's the best, it's because it's the most promoted by the dark occultists who want to take control over your mind and your perception of history and what a human being is. And so definitely looking to more alternative theories to that. Learning a lot more about spontaneous generation, which is what's touched upon on my Debunking Darwin Part 1, but definitely going to go into more detail about it now, in light of some of the new research that I've been doing. So I'm going to try to tie in, and this has never been done before, and a lot of you guys aren't going to like it, but it's going to be what it is. And I feel like I got some puzzle pieces that I've connected here that need to be presented, in regards to kind of seeing where Michael Tsarion's work back in 2006-07 correlates with the current work being done by the channel Mind Unveiled, and their study into the occult and the hidden history of Tartaria and of just this overall new perspective. I mean, this kid did this 9-hour thing on homunculus and spontaneous generation, and the kid's got some good stuff. And if people would just open their mind and there's a lot of researchers in this field, and there's only a handful of really great researchers in this field. And so when it comes to up and comers, it's the same way. So just because you hear Tartaria, you don't want don't turn that dial just yet, because you could there's something to be gained from, I feel, this Mind Unveiled, their series that they've been doing. There is definitely something to be gained for anyone who's been learning about the occult. You can extrapolate something new from this, from his series. And so I'm going to try to, I'm going to see where there's, and there is, and he's already, and Mind Unveiled, they've gone into the connections, but we're going to look at that. I want to look at that whole picture of spontaneous generation, you know, and alien manipulation, genetic manipulation. You know, I want to look at all that, and I want to look at this this Cabbage Patch. You know, if you just go to Mind Unveiled and look at the Cabbage Patch series, like of the Cabbage Patch Babies, and you know what really happened at the World's Fair, and like ancient cloning techniques, and I want to see. And I think there's going to be a correlation here. So definitely, I want to look at that whole picture and kind of just start from scratch, start at the beginning, start at the origins of humanity as we know it today, and then, you know, bring it up from there. Because there's those early genetic manipulations and the rewriting of history and the resets and things, and then you have the problem, reaction, solution dynamic in the modern, postmodern day. You know, when you have these false flags, you know, we understand that a lot of these people that are going out there, you know, committing these shootings and stuff, it's like these are going to be, you know, MK Ultra mind control assets who are sent out there to cause a stir and cause public civil unrest, and right, because the civil unrest is going to lead to a larger police state, and that is the goal of the Dark New World Order. And it's like we're a bigger, so it keeps growing and growing and growing, and people are still distracted by culture. But you see, when the COVID thing was a good test, because they could just shut culture right down, and then it's just you and them, and then so we saw that when it's just us and the dictatorship that runs the world, the people will just, there's some people who resist it, who just know inherently that there's something wrong with following the dictates and the orders of these occultists and stuff, and then there are some people who are just like, no, we got to do what they say, we got to do what we're told, and we got to tell other people to do what they're being dictated to do as well, for the greater good and for the best of humanity, for health and for safety and for all this shit. And it's just not the reality, and people need to stop believing in authority and you know, just thinking just because it's the scientific community and you know, official sources have said it and everybody's saying that this is how it is. You know, the narrative, the cultural narrative is wrong. It's not going to be how it is. Like, if there's a cultural narrative on something, like especially something big like a COVID or a 9/11, you bet your ass it's going to be flawed. It's going to be whatever the you know, deep state or whatever you want to call it. It's going to be what they want you to think. And so yeah, and so the channel's going to continue. And so coming up soon is going to be the relaunch of DeOcculted. We're going to start with book reviews. So unlike debunking Darwin, it took me months to put it out. It's going to be a little bit, hopefully, of a quicker process. Just reading one book at a time, or just studying one piece of work at a time, and going from there and trying to paint a full picture for everybody. So stay tuned, stay free, and don't let anyone tell you what you can or cannot do with your own goddamn body.